Suns, Clippers, and Bucks. Welcome back to Sound the Siren. I'm Xavier.
I'm Dylan. Welcome back to another episode of the Supercoach series. It's good to be back. How are you boys this week?
I'm pretty good. I had a pretty good week, I think, as far as my rank was concerned. I went up. My lowest score of the year, but I think it was for most people. So it's what it is.
Das?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Starting to get a move on. I think I've pretty much halved my season rank in about 5 weeks. So we're getting a good move along here, and we'll see how we continue forward out of these buys.
Good to see everyone's got their beanies on. I know I love mine at the moment. I had my lowest score of the year by an absolute mile. I was dreadful. I scored 1200. I think I had 11 or 12 players fielded and I lost 4,000 in the season rank. So not a great week by me, but I still won in one of my leagues, which I was pretty happy about. But we may as well move to your segment, Save, if you want to kick us off.
So we'll go straight into the heroes and villains. I think we'll start with you this week, Darcy.
So my heroes this week, Ridley 111 was really handy. It's probably his best score in a while. Bontempelli 143 while sitting on my vice. That really helped my week out there. That counted for a lot of my scoring. And then Zeeble Green, the forwards, they both were firing. That was very handy. And, the usual hero of my team, Lockie Neal. He scored 156, second highest scorer for the week, and he's got a very low ownership in players that are still active. So he's a handy point of difference for me that week, but I think he's going to be traded in a lot in the upcoming weeks, so that's not going to last very long. And then in terms of my villains, my season-long villain of Bailey Smith, scoring only 51 and now dropped below 400,000, so I can't even really upgrade him comfortably to someone decent without having to do a downgrade. And then Croup 71 as well was quite poor.
And for you, Don?
So, if you take my score into account and the amount of players I had, I was actually pretty solid. I guess you could say, well, every premium, with the exception of Sam Walsh, scored above 100. Bontempelli, 143, who I had the vice on. Lockie Whitfield, 126. And Jack Zeeble, Toby Green, 134, 125, respectively. And then I had 100 from Hall and Daniel. So, really, the only villain was Sam Walsh and Newcomb with the score of 24. So, I'm pretty happy with how things went.
And who was your villain, Don?
Newcomb and Walsh.
Walsh, yeah. So I've got quite a few heroes this week. Lockie Whitfield, after I sort of trashed him a little bit for getting outscored massively by Highmore last week, he repaid me with 126. As Darcy said, Jordan Ridley 111 was massive. Zeeble 134. They were all really, really good for me. But I think the number one hero for me this week has to be the boys, because all week I had my vice captaincy on Jack McRae and I had Sam Walsh sitting in my team. But I messaged all my friends. I was like, who should I pick out of Walsh, Kelly, and Lyons? All the boys told me get Lyons. So he scored 141, which was much more than the other two. And I put my vice captaincy on Bontempelli on the advice of my friends, who scored about 50 more than McRae. So that was they were my friends are my hero this week, and my villain would probably have to be Petty Cripps. It's not that much different from what we're expecting at the moment, but 71 isn't really that good from someone that's going to have to be a keeper.
Yep. So what trades were made this week by you guys? Starting with you, Dylan.
So this week I traded out Poulter and Berry and brought in Toby Green and Jai Newcomb. Now I probably did jump the gun on Newcomb, as did many of others. He was the most traded in player, I think, but Toby Green was very, very crucial to that score that I said, 124 from him or 125 from him. So he's an absolute gun at the moment. He's basically certified 100 or even 90. He's kicking goals. He's going around the ground and gathering possessions. So I'm a big fan of Toby Green at the moment.
For sure. For the first time in a while, I've used all of my trades. I used all four last week. I did out Murray finally after missing him the week before to, I think, or Jared Lyons at 613k. So that one worked really, really well. Massive game for Lyons. Was really happy with that one. I did out Waterman to Bramble, who scored I think 60 something or 50 something. So I went early on him. That wasn't so bad. Gave me an extra score on the field. I did out Poulter to Briggs, who scored 60 something. So that was pretty good. And then, as I think Dylan said, I did out Jordan to Jai Newcomb, who didn't score very good, but should be okay in the long run if he can hold his spot.
Just give me a sec. I'll be back.
His break even is 1.
I remember you telling me at one point, Xavier, that you expect me to have all three on at one point, all three beanies.
Yeah.
So this is peak advertising at the moment. I'm rocking all three beanies. So you got the BWS, the Collie Wobbles, and you've got the Go North beanies. So we've got them all during the week. We've started doing deliveries. So that's been absolutely fantastic. I think we've sold around 40 plus. So very good start. And if you're a watcher of this podcast, remember to use the code STS pod for a discount, and you can find that on the website. The link should be in the bio, in the description for that one.
Yeah.
Now on to my trades for the week. I had 4 trades similar to Xavier. I had Jordan, Poulter, Berry, and Coleman Jones out. And I brought in Briggs, Green, Kelly, and Newcomb. So there was 3 Giants that I brought in. Briggs, Green was solid. Kelly rolled his ankle, could be injured. That could be disappointing. Same with Newcomb. He's not injured, but disappointing score. So I think I won on 2 out of the 4 trades there. So 50% rate, I'll take it. But hopefully Kelly improves in the future.
I will say, just before we move to the next segment, I'm quite surprised with the overall consensus of trading Jordan, because he's averaged about 92 in his last 3 weeks. But is his break even somewhat high still? But he's still scoring well. He almost cracked his first ton, 99 last week. So he's definitely made a lot of money for you boys. But was that just because you don't think he'll reach the break even, or was it just because you needed an upgrade?
For me, I'm trying to look up his break even right now.
Only 43.
Yeah, so it wasn't that high. The only reason I did it is because I needed players on the field, and I also really wanted to get a premium, as I spoke of before, in Jared Lyons. So even if he does average 90, he's not going to score what Jared Lyons will for the rest of the year.
Yeah, because we do talk a lot of break evens, but I think when it comes to premiums, you don't really worry about it, do you?
Yeah.
No, we're getting to a stage this time of year where cash generation doesn't matter as much, given that we will, or most of us will almost have full teams. I think I've only got 2 spots left, so I'm going to make the money eventually. So I didn't really need it that bad.
Yeah. All right, now to the buy, sell, holds, and the first one I think is the most traded in player at the moment for this week is Luke Edwards from the Eagles.
He's a buy definitely for me.
He's a risky buy. There's a good chance that he has pretty poor job security, even though he has played well. With star West Coast midfielders coming back in Kelly and Shuey. I don't know if his job security will be up for it. But if he gets named this week, I'll be getting him in because that cash generation will be worth it just in itself.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, let's stick on the West Coast Eagles path. Luke Foley, next one.
He's a solid option. He's only 161,000. He's had the 1 increase. He's still got a negative 56 break even, but he's still a solid option for me in the defense. I'd be taking Briggs over him at this point, but coming off a score of 82 and considering his first score of 3, which I believe he was a sub in, his first score of 3 is now out of the equation for his break even or whatever. He should be going for some good cash generation from here onwards. And he's scored 67, 82 is in his 2 games where he has played the full game. So he can score. So he's not a terrible option. I don't know if I take him or Briggs. I know I've got Briggs, but I think Briggs has a pretty poor job security when Mumford's in the equation. So I actually don't mind Foley as an option.
Let's touch on Briggs quickly, just before you do, Zave. With Briggs, I know many people like you, Das, were elated with that pickup, but with Mumford possibly coming back, will you hold him for a couple of weeks and then trade him out, do you think?
Um, for me, it doesn't really matter all that much. At the moment, I've got 6 defenders anyway, so even if he's not going to play, I still have an emergency, and he's not on field. So really, it was just to get the one score and the ability to upgrade, and then if he played, it was just a bonus. So it doesn't matter too much. But in the ideal world, he keeps his spot, he makes 150k, and then I trade him out in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. And how did you see Foley, Save?
It's an interesting one. Again, just on job security is the main problem. Jeremy Cameron is a test to come back in this week after his injury, and as Darcy said, they've got so many other really really good players that could come back in at any. Jeremy McGovern, sorry, that could come back in any week. So yeah, it's tough, but if he holds his spot, then he should be a good option.
Yep, now to the next one, almost reminiscent of Poulter last week, Cody Waitman.
I think this is a tough one as well. I haven't seen his break even, but I assume it's not the best.
26, I believe, off the top of my head.
26. So it's not horrible. If it costs you getting an upgrade, then, or if you trade him out and you can upgrade to someone, then I would do it. Whether it be like a Toby Green, or if you missed out on Zorko or Zeeble, then I would do that. But if not, then probably hold still.
Yeah, I think you could hold him for one more week and then upgrade there or downgrade there. Won't hurt. He's still playing, hopefully, and he should score decently. So one more week hold isn't too bad.
Now, I've been waiting for this reveal for a few weeks. Das has caught on to it. But before we do, just a couple obvious ones. Lockie Jones, clearly a sell. Devon Robertson, a sell. And Mitch Duncan, a sell due to his injury. Now, Paddy Dangerfield, the other one. And then I will reveal who I've been waiting to reveal.
I think I might know who you're waiting to do, and I think I might have touched on it in our PlayStation party last night, Dylan. But on Patrick Dangerfield, his break-even is 138, so I'd probably wait one more week, given he hasn't scored above 100 since he came in, or for the whole year in that case. But 138 is going to be tough to get. If he does get it, then we know he's back to his best, but I still expect him to come down a little bit more and be at a really, really good price for me to pick him up next week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. He's got to show some scoring potential first before I'll even consider him. His highest score being 96, so there's not really worth it over other players in the forward line at the moment. But yeah, we'll see how it goes.
And that was 96 with a strong last quarter effort as well. I think he might have been on 50 at three-quarter time. So we'll see how he goes tonight against the Lions. Now, Shannon Hearn is the man I've been waiting to reveal. Zave nodding or shaking his head. Das, I think you're a big advocate for him. Am I right?
I'm not a big advocate. He's a decent option. I only put him in my team temporarily this week, so then it was an easy move from Bailey Smith, and I didn't get flamed having Bailey Smith in the comments of the team reveal. But that was my only real reason for having him there. But he's not a terrible option, but he's no Lloyd, Whitfield, Mills, Laird. So, but if you can't afford to get up there, he's an easy move up from Cozzy or Jones if you just got 200k in the bank.
Yeah, I agree with that. I was shaking my head because I thought you had someone else in mind. I might have to bring him up later, but he's not the worst option. 425k, and 4 of his 8 scores have been above 100, averaging 94 for the year. Yeah, he's, as long as he stays fit, he's going to be someone that averages about 90 points a game. That's what he's been every year since like 2015, 2016. So I don't think he's the worst option, but as Darcy said, I'd rather have Mills, Whitfield, Lloyd, Doherty,
Stewart as well.
Ridley, yeah, Stewart as well. So there's some better options, but he's definitely not the worst.
And that's with the 6 taken into account. So I think he's averaging about 105, 110 this year. So definitely one to keep an eye on. Do you want to say who you were hinting towards now, or should we save it?
The one I was hinting towards, he's got a break even of 138, and he's quite expensive, but Rowan Marshall will be coming back in this week. Do you see him being a top 6 forward, and could you bring him in?
You definitely could. It's similar to Danger, but just a cheaper Dangerfield. So we'll see how he goes tomorrow night against the Tigers. And him and Wright are the 1-2 punch, and they seem to be gelling together well throughout the years. So, yeah.
Yes, I think I'm almost identical to Paddy Dangerfield. I'm really high on Marshall, and I think he's going to be a top 6 forward for sure if he stays fit. Even just this year, he's got a score of 132 in a game that he looked to have visible discomfort. So if he can stay fit, I think he'll be a top 6 forward, and hopefully my last upgrade of the year.
Yeah.
I'll move on to lessons learned for this week. So I'll start off with mine. My lesson learned was if a player's scored really well all season, then to not doubt him. So I saw many people message the AFL Supercoach account or commented over the last few weeks, should I trade out Zeeble? Should I get rid of Zeeble? Whatever. And asking who to get in the forward line when Zeeble's still only 530-ish thousand. So he's been the top scorer for the forward line for the entire season, and he's been up there in total in overall scores as well. I think he might be top 10 or around the mark there in total scores for all positions. So I don't really see how you can trade a player out if he's done that well all season. And anyone who did trade him out is now on the back of a 134-point loss.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm pretty similar to that. My lesson learned for the week was not to overreact to a couple of bad weeks or even one bad week. The examples of that, Zeeble came from a 91 and 4 scores of under 105 to scoring 134. Whitfield, after his 70 last week, scored 126. Ridley, after a horrible middle patch of the year, scored 111. So there's multiple examples. So that's my lesson learned.
My lesson learned is probably off the back of last week where I said the same thing, and it's to not jump on rookies too early. And Jai Newcomb paid us with a 24 in his second game. So that's probably mine. I didn't really have that bad of a week considering the amount of players I had. So not too much for me, but I'll focus on one next week. Into Zave, who will you be captaining this week?
I will be captaining. I think Bontempelli has to be in there as my captain, and then the vice captain, I think maybe Jared Lyons after his big score last week.
Das?
I'm very tempted to go Lochinil Vice and a Bontempelli captaincy. Very tempted to go Lockie Vice.
I actually really like that, Darcy, given that you're one of the few people in the league that have him. You could get a massive reward if he does go big again.
What about you, Dylan?
I'll be going Steel Vice against the Tigers, and then moving towards either Bont or Clayton Oliver.
Just really quickly before we wrap it up, in the heroes and villains, I forgot to mention Miles Bergman. I think I'm one of the few people that held him after he was out of the team for a couple of weeks and the sub for a couple of weeks. But he had scoring potential and he really showed it on the weekend, 115. So he was absolutely massive, and he earned me a lot of money, 21.7k, and he's going to keep making that in the coming weeks with that score and his rolling average.
Yeah, Miles Bergman's a good friend of the podcast. He's always likes our messages when we message him on the Supercoach account. And just finally, I'll ask you about your trades in a sec, but I'm weighing up a trade of going Bailey Smith to Scott Pendlebury. It gains me a little bit of cash. Scott Pendlebury's got a negative 26 break even. And then I might also do Waterman to Edwards. Sort of depends on that one. But
yeah, I like the Pendlebury move. I think he has his position back, and he's off 108 and 167 after scoring 43.50. So I do like that. I was keeping an eye on him, and possibly for a late upgrade in the year.
I think that's an interesting one as well. He's really cheap, as you said, and he's got a really small break even, as you said as well. But I think it might be a little bit sideways. I know how bad.
I'm just sick of Bailey Smith at this point.
I know how bad he's been all year, but since you've had him all year, I think you might need to stick it out for a couple of weeks. Or best case scenario, you find one of the top players, Bontempelli, Oliver, McRae, Steele, Jared Lyons, etc. to upgrade to.
Yep.
And what were your trades? Xavier, starting with you.
I'm going to try and bring in a premium forward this week. Whether I build up the courage to bring in Rowan Marshall or I bring in Toby Green otherwise. For, what's his name? I don't have my trades in front of me. So for Bo McQuarrie, and then the other trade would be Lockie Jones to Luke Edwards.
Yeah. And as I'm getting mine off, with all due respect to Harrison Jones, I thought Bergman should have received the Rising Star nomination for this week, but that's just me personally. So this week, I have done so far Waitman and McNeil, who's been sitting on my bench for a while, to Luke Edwards, and then either Shannon Hearn or Jordan Ridley.
I'd do the second one.
Absolutely.
I know I said Shannon Hearn's been really good and he's really cheap, but Ridley's going to be one of the best scorers in the defense this year.
I don't know. I might have to shake it up. He's a good pod.
Yeah, I think he is. He is a good pod, but I think Ridley is probably better.
All right. Any other notes, boys?
Nothing else from me.
Thanks for joining us, Das, once again. For our weekly episode, make sure to follow at AFL Supercoach, at sts.podcast, and that will be it for this week.